So we've got some algebraic fractions here, and I'm hoping that once you see me do them, you'll feel a lot better about them. They won't be so scary. I know a lot of people don't like the letters in them, but really, the method is the same as before. If we're adding fractions, we get the same denominator, we can add the numerators, and it just works like that. Hopefully the experience that I've had doing them will allow us to find a method that doesn't have any errors and also makes you feel comfortable. So here we need a common denominator, 3 and 4. If you know your multiplication tables, you'll know that 3 times 4 is 12, and that is a common multiple for us. So 3 times 4 being 12, we can go ahead and write that straight away. It's just like that video I did with the basic numbers. What we want to do is write what we've done. So how we get to 12 from that 3 is multiply it by 4, knowing to do the same on the top. We get 4x. Plus stays the same. Now, if we look at the x over 4, what did we do to get to the 12? We multiplied the bottom by 3. So we do the same to the top, and then in it goes. Eureka, we have the same denominator, so then we can write them together. So we add the numerators. I'm not skipping a step here. And the last thing is to just check if they cancel, and actually they've got no factor in common, so they're not going to cancel. But on to the next one. Here's a great example of one that can be harder if you're not careful and spot it. So you notice that t and t squared are awfully similar, and in the first one we changed both of the denominators. Well, in this one we only need to change one, so look out for any cases where it is only one. And here we'll multiply this by t, because hopefully you can see that that becomes t squared. And we've achieved what we want to achieve. We just have to have patience to write it all out, you know. And now they're in common, we can add them together. And it's where you feel uncomfortable, because you don't have something nice on top. It's an expression, but that's fine. We followed the method. And that's just what it is. Check for anything to cancel, but in fact on the top here there's no common denominator. Cancelling can only take place if there's a common denominator that we can actually take out and cancel, so we'll leave it there. And this last one kind of confuses people, but I see it quite simply after many times doing questions like this, and this will serve you well in A-level. We think about what we got on the bottom, so C and A and B, and if they were all numbers, we'd be thinking about what do they all go into. Well, another way of thinking about that is, or finding that number, is multiplying them all together. And since we don't know them, that's probably the best strategy here. I'll give it a bit more space. If we multiply them all together, we'll get CAB. I'm going to get that 3 times, because we're aiming to get that on all of the denominators. Alright, so we've got CAB, and this is how I think about it, that makes it a little bit simpler than all of the variables going on. I think in this first one, I've got C, and what I need to add to that denominator is an A and a B. So in fact, I need to multiply it by AB, and I do the same to the top. But you notice I'm not saying what do I multiply it by, I'm thinking about what am I missing. And it becomes a game of literally, I needed an A and B, so I'm going to put an AB there. Or on the top, I need what I did to the bottom has to happen to the top as well. So I've got an AB there. And same for this one. So I've got an A already, which means I need a C and a B. So this is going to be multiplied by CB. You might want to multiply it by BC. It's the same thing, right? But now you can see that the top, so I'll just go ahead and do that now. It's BC squared, right? It's BC times BC. I could have done that with this one, but sometimes you don't need to do it all at once. And then B is missing CA. So multiply by CA. Just, there's a little plan. Hopefully it keeps you on track. And then that CA is going to complete this one, so we'll have CA squared. Now the final is to just recognize that we have a common denominator and we add the numerators. These pens are called gel pens. You know them? Sometimes they don't work, but can you see the ink is getting quite low? Distractions. Could be the paper. I bet you're thinking it's the paper too. Because you know. Right, stop talking, I've got focus. This needs to now be considered whether we have a letter that we have in common, but unfortunately we don't. We take these out, it would be a squared. Okay, it's in those two, but it's not this one. You might be tempted to start crossing letters out. It has to be a full factor. All right, there's some really good starter questions and how to do them, and I hope that was helpful. If you liked the video and you want to see more of this content, please consider subscribing. It supports me a lot and I love making these videos, so see you in the next one.